The night I received my captain's insignia at Fort Westlake Logistics Group, my mother pointed at my chest and spat, "Your rank means nothing," while my sister burst out laughing like she'd just won a bet. A strange call cut through the clinking glasses, exposing the truth the house I'd bought with deployment money had been sold with a forged signature, the proceeds flowing into a family trust. I raised my glass, smiling like I was swallowing poison. My revenge plan began right there on the stage of my own promotion party. My name is Ava Hartley, and I'd spent 12 years earning the right to stand in that officers' club ballroom, feeling the weight of new captain's bars on my shoulders. The yellow lights cast shadows across white tablecloths. Jazz piano trickling through conversations like water through stones. I could smell the pepper sauce from the buffet mixing with sweat under dress uniforms. That particular combination that meant celebration at Fort Westlake. The microphone gave a small squeal as Colonel Richards finished his speech about dedication and service. My parents, Martin and Elaine Hartley, sat at the front table, their faces carved from marble. My sister Lydia lounged beside them, twirling her wedding ring like she was calculating its worth. To Captain Hartley, Richards raised his glass. May your logistics expertise continue to serve Westlake's mission. The room lifted their drinks. That's when my mother stood. Your rank means nothing. Her voice cut through the jazz, through the murmur of congratulations. The words hit the microphone, amplified across the ballroom. While you played soldier, this family has been drowning in debt from your reckless decisions. My father nodded slowly, deliberately, like he'd rehearsed this moment. We've carried your burdens long enough, Ava. Real family takes responsibility. Lydia's laugh bubbled up, sharp and bright. She'd won something, though I didn't know what yet. Faces turned toward us, some sympathetic, others eager for scandal. I kept my expression neutral. Field training teaches you to assess before reacting. Mom, Dad, I said quietly, but the microphone caught it. Perhaps we could discuss this. My phone buzzed against my hip. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something instinct maybe. The same feeling that kept me alive during convoys made me answer. Captain Hartley, this is Agent Cole Mercer with the Federal Financial Crimes Bureau. His voice was professional, urgent. We need to discuss a property transaction at 19 Red Alder Lane. The signature on the sale documents doesn't match our records. The room kept spinning around me, clinking glasses, nervous laughter, my mother's tight smile. That's my house, I said into the phone. Not according to recent filings. It was sold 3 weeks ago. Proceeds transferred to something called the Whitlock Family Trust. Ma'am, we have reason to believe, Lydia stood then, raising her champagne. To family loyalty, she called out, and I saw the glint of victory in her eyes, the same look she'd had when she used to blame me for broken vases, stolen birthday money. I ended the call, raised my own glass. To family, I echoed, tasting acid in my mouth. The crowd relaxed, assuming the crisis had passed. They didn't know I'd learned to smile while planning supply routes through hostile territory. Thank you all for coming, I said into the microphone, my voice steady as a freight manifest. Please, enjoy the celebration. As conversations resumed and the jazz picked up tempo, I watched my family settle back into their chairs, satisfied they'd made their point. My mother patted Lydia's hand. My father checked his watch, 8:45 p.m., though he didn't know I was memorizing every detail, every gesture. They thought they'd won. They thought 12 years of military discipline had made me soft on the home front, too trusting, too absent to notice their maneuvers. They didn't understand that logistics isn't just about moving supplies, it's about tracking every piece, following every trail, knowing exactly where everything ends up. I sipped my champagne and began planning my campaign. The next morning at 6:30 a.m., I stood outside 19 Red Alder Lane, my house or what used to be mine. The lockbox on the door held a realtor's card, sold. The oak tree I'd planted after my second deployment still leaned slightly left. The kitchen window I'd replaced myself reflected the sunrise. Every improvement paid for with combat pay, hazard pay, separation pay, blood money. Some called it independence. I called it. I'd bought this place 3 years ago, after a 9-month deployment that left sand permanently embedded in my gear and ringing in my left ear that never quite stopped. While others bought trucks or boats, I wanted walls that couldn't be moved on someone else's orders, a foundation that stayed put. The county clerk's office opened at 8 a.m. sharp. I was first in line, military habit. The records showed the sale clear as a supply manifest seller signature dated 3 weeks ago, while I was running logistics drills at Fort Westlake. The signature looked like mine if you squinted same A, same H, but the spacing was wrong, the slant too deliberate. "Can I get copies of all supporting documents?" I asked the clerk. She pulled the file. Power of attorney form, notarized. The notary seal looked legitimate, but the date I was in a classified briefing with 30 witnesses. The email authorizing the sale came from Era Hartley 1985 /freemail, com, close to my actual email. Off by 2 letters. Someone had scanned my old military ID, the one from before my last promotion, still showing me as first lieutenant. Back in my temporary quarters at Westlake, I spread the papers across my bunk like battle plans. Agent Mercer answered on the second ring. "Captain Hartley, I was hoping you'd call." "The signature's forged," I said. "The email's fake. The power of attorney references a meeting that never happened?" "We know." Papers shuffled on his end. "The Whitlock Family Trust received $387,000 4 weeks ago. Your parents are listed as beneficiaries, but the actual transfers went through something called Alder Consulting LLC. Let me guess Lydia's the registered agent. Smart woman, though not smart enough. She tested the system first. Small withdrawals from an old escrow account you'd forgotten about. When those went unnoticed, she escalated. I stared at the ceiling tiles, counting holes like I used to count convoy vehicles. My parents knew. They've been receiving investment returns for 2 months. Your mother's maiden name is Whitlock, isn't it? The pieces clicked together like ammunition into a magazine. The family trust using Mom's maiden name for cover. Lydia's sudden interest in family financial planning last Christmas. Dad's comments about my assets sitting idle while the family struggled. "Captain, we can pursue criminal charges, but we need your cooperation. Full documentation, recorded conversations if legal in your state, any communication about property or finances." I thought about last night Mom's performance, Dad's practiced disappointment, Lydia's champagne toast to loyalty. They'd weaponized family against me, turned blood into a con game. "Agent Mercer," I said, "I spent 3 tours learning how to track supply chains in places where paperwork didn't exist and signatures meant nothing. I know how to document everything. I'm sending you our forensic accountant's analysis. The handwriting expert confirmed what you suspected. Whoever forged your signature pressed too hard, made the letters too uniform. Real signatures have natural variation, muscle memory. Forgers concentrate too much." After ending the call, I sat in the silence of my quarters, listening to the morning drill calls outside. In combat, the enemy wore different uniforms, flew different flags. Here, they wore familiar faces and shared my name. I opened my laptop and began creating my own files, financial forensics, communication logs, legal documentation, each folder subdivided like a proper logistics tree. Evidence would be my ammunition, truth my weapon. They wanted to play family. I'd show them what family really meant: accountability, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt. 3 days later, Mom called. "We need to talk about your behavior at the promotion party. As a family, tonight, 7 p.m., our house, their house." The Colonial on Maple Street, where I'd grown up, where Lydia's childhood lies were always believed over my truth. I arrived at 6:55, phone recording legally in my chest pocket one-party consent state. Agent Mercer had confirmed. The dining room smelled like pot roast, my favorite as a kid. Psychological warfare, even in the seasoning. They sat in formation, Dad at the head, Mom to his right, Lydia across from where I'd sit. The empty chair waited like an interrogation seat. Ava, Dad started, carving meat with surgical precision. Your mother and I are concerned. The military has made you disconnected, cold, paranoid, Lydia added, not looking up from her phone. Agent Mercer called here, you know. Such drama over a simple property transfer. I sat down slowly. Simple. Mom's sigh could have won an Oscar. Honey, you were deployed so often. The house was sitting empty, costing money. We made an executive decision for the family's benefit. With my forged signature, forged is such an ugly word, Lydia said. You gave verbal authorization. Remember that call 3 months ago? When I was in a classified location with no phone access, Dad set down the knife. Details get fuzzy in the field. We have witnesses who heard you agree to liquidate idle assets. I pulled out my phone, placed it visibly on the table, not recording. They'd think, just present. Which witnesses? Does it matter? Mom leaned forward. The money went to family. The Whitlock Trust ensures everyone benefits, not just you. That's what families do, share resources. Through Alder Consulting LLC, I watched Lydia's jaw tighten. Interesting business model. Sis, it's completely legal, she snapped. Tax-efficient structure for family wealth management. And the test withdrawals from my old escrow, also tax-efficient. The room went silent except for the grandfather clock ticking. Lydia's phone screen reflected her face. Pale now. Dad recovered first. You're talking nonsense. What escrow? The one from my first house purchase that fell through. Small amounts, 50 here, 100 there. Started 2 months before the big sale, like someone was testing if I'd notice. You're imagining things, Mom said, but her voice pitched higher. The stress of command. The IP addresses, I continued, buttering bread like we were discussing weather. Fascinating how they trace back to this house. And Lydia's apartment. Never from anywhere I've actually been. Lydia stood abruptly. I need to check something in Dad's office. The files about the trust, I asked. The ones you keep in the blue folder marked healthcare, or the Alder Consulting documents behind Mom's recipe box. She froze. Mom's hand shook slightly as she reached for her water. You went through our things. Dad's voice dropped to command tone, the one he'd used when I was young and in trouble. No. But guilty people always hide evidence in predictable places. Supply sergeants taught me that thieves think they're clever, but patterns repeat. This is exactly what we mean, Mom said, rallying. This paranoid, aggressive behavior, a loving daughter would understand we did this for everyone's good. A loving family wouldn't steal from their own. It's not stealing when it's already family money. Lydia burst out. You were hoarding resources while we struggled. Mom's medical bills. Dad's retirement shortfall. What medical bills? I turned to Mom. Your Instagram shows you at yoga 4 times a week. Privacy issues, Dad interrupted. Not everything goes on social media. But vacation photos from Cabo do, the ones from last month, when you were supposedly too broke to pay property taxes. They exchanged glances quick, but I caught them. In combat, you learn to read micro-expressions, the tell before the ambush. We deserved a break, Mom said finally. The stress of managing everything while you're gone. Managing my forged signature must be exhausting. Lydia slammed her palm on the table. You want to destroy this family over paperwork? Fine. But remember, we're all you have. When the military discards you, who else will be there? I stood, tucked my phone back in my pocket. The Federal Financial Crimes Bureau, apparently. They're very interested in families who share resources through fraudulent means. At the door, Mom called out, playing her last card. We're still your parents, Ava. That has to mean something. I turned back, memorizing their faces, the denial, the entitlement, the absolute belief that blood meant absolution. It does mean something, I said. It means you should have known better. The investigation became my second job. After duty hours at Fort Westlake, I'd return to my quarters and open the laptops. Yes, plural. One for the evidence, one for cross-referencing. Mercer had introduced me to his team, Sarah Chen Williams, a forensic accountant who could track money like I tracked convoy routes, and Marcus Torres, a handwriting expert who spoke about pen pressure like a poet. Your signature has a distinctive tail on the Y. Torres explained over video call at 9:15 p.m. You lift early, curve left, the forgery drags straight down. Someone traced it but couldn't replicate the muscle memory. Sarah's screen shared bank records that looked like supply manifests from hell. Here's where it gets interesting, she said, highlighting transactions. Alder Consulting LLC received your house sale proceeds, then dispersed them in specific amounts, $99.90 repeatedly just under the reporting threshold. Structuring, Mercer added. Lydia's not as clever as she thinks. I pulled up my own findings. Security footage from the post office shows Lydia mailing documents on 3 dates. The grainy video displayed her distinctive walk, the designer bag she couldn't afford on her retail manager salary. Each mailing corresponds to a document filed with the county. What about the notary? Mercer asked. Rachel Hendricks. Turns out she's Lydia's college roommate. Conveniently forgot that relationship on the forms. Sarah pulled up another screen. Your parents are smarter, or luckier. The money flowing to them looks like legitimate investment returns. They're beneficiaries, not signatories. Harder to prove knowledge. They knew. I opened the audio file from dinner. Listen at minute 12. Lydia's voice crackled through. You gave verbal authorization. Remember that call 3 months ago. Then Dad, we have witnesses who heard you agree to liquidate idle assets. They're coordinating their story, Mercer said. That's conspiracy. I'd mapped out the entire network on my wall, like planning a supply route through hostile territory. Red strings connected photos, documents, timestamps. Lydia made a mistake. She tested the system with my old escrow account first. We saw those. Sarah pulled up the records. $50 here, $100 there. Started 8 weeks before the house sale. But check this. I overlaid my deployment schedule. Each test withdrawal happened while I was in documented field exercises. No computer access. She was checking if I'd notice in real time. Building confidence, Torres said. Classic escalation pattern. The IP addresses told their own story. I'd requested logs from every service email, banking, county filing systems. The fake email account was created from Mom's house. The banking access came from Lydia's apartment complex Wi-Fi. But look at this. One IP stood out. A coffee shop on 3rd Street. They met there, I said. Planned it. The shop has security cameras. Mercer smiled grimly. I'll subpoena the footage. There's more. I pulled up social media screenshots. Lydia's been shopping. New car last month paid cash according to the dealer's Instagram post. Vacation to Miami 2 weeks after my house sold. She tagged herself at restaurants that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Establishing lifestyle changes consistent with sudden wealth, Sarah noted. Jury loves that. What about your parents? Mercer asked. I hesitated, then opened another folder. Mom's been moving money to her brother. $5,000 here, $3,000 there. Gifts, technically, but the timing matches trust disbursements. Dad bought into a golf club $50,000 initial membership. Cash. They're laundering through lifestyle, Sarah said. Harder to recover, but clear benefit from the fraud. The room on my screen went quiet. We all knew what this meant, not just recovery, but prosecution, criminal charges, my family in handcuffs. Ava, Mercer said gently, we have enough. The forged signature, the fake email, the notary fraud. Lydia's going down. Your parents? Depends on what else we find. I stared at the wall of evidence. 3 months of my life mapped out in financial crimes. I found one more thing, I said, pulling up a final document. Lydia filed paperwork to become my financial power of attorney last year. I never signed it, but she submitted it to 2 banks. They rejected it for inconsistencies, but she tried. Pattern of attempts, Mercer said. This wasn't impulse. This was planned. Torres leaned forward. Captain, the handwriting on that POA attempt, it's the same forger. Same pressure points. Same hesitation marks. She's been practicing your signature for over a year. A year. While I was serving, thinking my family was safe, stable. Lydia was studying my signature like an enemy studies troop movements. We move forward, Mercer asked. I thought about Christmas last year. Lydia giving me a framed photo of the family, insisting I hang it in my house. Had she been casing it even then, Mom hugging me goodbye at the airport, telling me to be safe. Dad saluting me, half joking, at my deployment send-off. Every piece of evidence, I said. Every crime, no mercy for thieves, especially ones who claim to love you. 2 weeks later, Mom called again. We're having a family gathering Saturday night. To put this ugliness behind us. 7 p.m. The house. Another ambush dinner. A reconciliation. Her voice dripped honey over steel. Your father has something important to discuss, about the family's future. I agreed. Mercer's team would be listening from a van 2 blocks away. Legal in our state I'd be present, consenting to recording. The wire felt like a metal against my ribs. Saturday arrived gray and humid. I parked where the van team could see my car, tapped my collar twice, signal confirmed. The house blazed with lights, cars in the driveway. Not just family. Then, witnesses to whatever show they'd planned. Inside, the dining room was set for 8. Mom's sister Patricia, Dad's golf buddy Robert, Lydia's husband Daniel, and someone I didn't recognize, a woman in a severe suit with a briefcase. Ava. Mom embraced me, perfume thick enough to choke. This is Ms. Brennan, a family counselor who specializes in financial healing. Financial healing. Code for make Ava drop the investigation. Actually, Ms. Brennan corrected. I'm a mediator. Your family hired me to facilitate an agreement. Lydia sat coiled like a spring designer dress, fresh manicure, playing successful businesswoman. We want to move forward productively, she said. For everyone's benefit. Dad raised his wine. To family unity. I didn't drink. What agreement, Ms. Brennan opened her briefcase. A document clarifying past misunderstandings and establishing future financial boundaries. I scanned the pages. Legal language dancing around the truth, miscommunication regarding property. Informal family arrangements. Retroactive authorization. Bottom line. I'd agree the house sale was legitimate, drop any complaints, and receive a family settlement of $30,000. $30,000, I said. The house sold for $387. Costs, Lydia said quickly. Taxes, maintenance, family debts you don't know about. Which debts specifically? Mom touched my hand. Does it matter we're offering closure? And if I don't sign, Dad's mask slipped, then you're choosing to destroy your family over money. Interesting perspective from people who stole my house. Nobody stole anything, Lydia burst out. You abandoned that property, just like you abandon everything for your precious military career. We managed your mess. By forging my signature, she reached into her bag, pulled out a folder. You want to talk about signatures? Here's an email from you, dated 3 months ago, discussing liquidating assets. I looked at the printout, the fake email account, but the content was new. I never wrote this. IP address says different. She smiled. Traced to a hotel near Fort Westlake. You were on leave. Except I wasn't. I was in medical, getting my hearing checked. Records would prove it, but they didn't know that. Clever, I said, playing along. When did I supposedly send this? March 15th, 2:23 a.m. I let them see me calculate, pretend to worry. That's specific. Digital footprints don't lie, Robert chimed in. Dad must have coached him. My son works in IT. These things are traceable. So you're saying this email proves I authorized the sale? Among other things. Lydia pulled out more papers. Bank logs showing you accessed the accounts. Security questions only you would know the answers to. So, except the security questions were mother's maiden name, first pet, childhood street, things Lydia knew, things any family member knew. "This is quite the production," I said, loud enough for the wire. "You fabricated an entire email thread." "Nobody fabricated anything," Dad said firmly. "You're confused, stressed. Your memory's affected by combat exposure." Gaslighting. Nice touch. Mom started crying on cue. "Why are you doing this to us?" "Mrs. Hartley, Ms." Brennan intervened. "Perhaps we should focus on the agreement." I stood, walked to the window. The van was there, barely visible. "You know what's interesting about digital evidence metadata?" "What?" Lydia's voice pitched higher. "Every email, every document, every file has hidden data, creation dates, modification times, what computer made it." I turned back. "For instance, that email you just showed me want to bet it was created on your laptop this week." Silence. "The bank logs you mentioned, they'll show the actual device ID. Your phone, perhaps, or Mom's tablet." Lydia's hand moved toward the folder, but I was faster. Military reflexes. I grabbed it, held it up. "May I keep this for my records?" That's private property," she stammered. "Really? I thought it was my email." Daniel finally spoke. "Lydia, maybe we should shut up." She snapped at her husband, then turned to me. "You want to play games? Fine. Sign the agreement or we'll make sure everyone at Fort Westlake knows you're unstable. Paranoid. Attacking your own family." "With what proof?" She smiled. "Vicious now." "Mom's medical records. Her therapist notes about her disturbed daughter. Dad's letters to your commanding officer expressing concern." "You wrote those?" I asked Mom, letting hurt creep into my voice for the recording. She looked away. "For your own good." The room crystallized into perfect clarity. They'd built a complete frame, layers of lies to bury the truth. But they'd made one mistake. They thought I was alone. "I need air," I said, walking toward the door. "Sign first," Dad commanded. I turned, smiled. "Actually, I forgot something in my car. Be right back." Outside, I tapped my collar 3 times. The van doors opened. I walked back into the house carrying nothing but confidence. They were still arranged around the table, Lydia texting furiously, probably trying to verify what metadata meant. Dad stood by the window, watching the street. Mom clutched Patricia's hand. "False alarm," I said, sitting back down. "Ms. Brennan, you were saying about the agreement." "Yes, well, it's quite generous considering the fraud." I pulled out my phone, placed it on the table. "Agent Mercer, are you getting all this?" The room froze. Lydia's phone clattered onto her plate. "What did you?" Dad started. "The wire's been recording for 47 minutes, I said conversationally. "The van outside has been monitoring for FBI-level evidence collection. Oh, and Lydia, that folder you just gave me. Thank you for the fabricated emails. Mercer's going to love those." Lydia lunged for the folder. I let her take it. We had photos, her fingerprints, everything we needed. "You're bluffing," she hissed. "Recording without consent is legal in this state with one-party consent." That's me. The FFCB verified it. I smiled. "You should really research laws before committing federal crimes." Mom's tears turned real. "Ava, you can't prove you discussed forging my signature, can't demonstrate Lydia created false documents, can't show Dad coached witnesses to lie." 3 knocks at the door. Perfect timing. "That would be them," I said. Dad moved toward the back door, but I shook my head. "There's a unit there too, just procedure." Mercer entered first, badge visible, followed by 4 other agents. "Good evening. I'm Agent Cole Mercer, Federal Financial Crimes Bureau. We have warrants." He handed papers to each of them. "Lydia, Mom, Dad. Lydia Hartley Morrison, you're under arrest for wire fraud, forgery, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit fraud." "Daniel!" Lydia shrieked at her husband, but he stepped back, hands raised. "Ma'am, please stand and place your hands behind your back." The handcuffs clicked like punctuation. Her designer dress caught on the chair as they pulled her up. Martin and Elaine Hartley. Mercer continued. You're persons of interest in an ongoing investigation. You're not under arrest at this time, but we need to search the premises. More agents flooded in, latex gloves, evidence bags. One headed straight to Dad's office, another to the kitchen where Mom kept her papers in the recipe box, exactly where I'd predicted. Found it, an agent called out. Blue folder marked Healthcare contains Whitlock Trust documents. Recipe box has Alder Consulting files. Another announced. Lydia's face went white. How did you? Supply sergeants know where people hide things, I said. You're predictable? Patricia and Robert tried to leave, but Mercer stopped them. We'll need statements. You were witnesses to attempted coercion. Ms. Brennan, the mediator, slowly closed her briefcase. I had no knowledge of any criminal activity. I was hired to mediate a family dispute. We'll determine that, Mercer said. Your briefcase, please. Mom collapsed into a chair. Ava, how could you do this to your own family? Me, I bought a house. You stole it. We're your parents. Biology doesn't authorize theft. Dad found his voice, shifting to authority mode. This is a misunderstanding. Family finances get complicated. Any lawyer will see that. Your laptop, Mr. Hartley, an agent said. We have a warrant for all electronic devices. They bagged phones, tablets, even the smart TV that might have browsing history. Lydia's purse yielded 3 USB drives and a notebook with practiced versions of my signature. Oh, that's damning, Mercer said, flipping through the pages. Practice makes perfect. Huh. I want a lawyer, Lydia said. Absolutely. You'll have a phone call at processing. As they led her toward the door, she turned to me. You've destroyed us. All of us. For what money? For theft. For fraud. For thinking family meant you could take what was mine. The house was empty. So you filled it with lies and theft. Dad stepped forward. One last attempt at control. Ava, we can still fix this. Call them off. We'll pay you back. With what? The money you already spent Mom's brother's new car. Your golf membership. His face went gray. We knew everything. Captain Hartley, Mercer said formally. We have what we need. Thank you for your cooperation. I stood to leave. Mom grabbed my sleeve. You're not our daughter anymore. I looked at her hand on my arm, then at her face. I haven't been your daughter since you signed off on stealing my home. I've been your mark. Outside, the neighborhood watched from windows and doorways. Lydia in the back of a patrol car, mascara streaking her cheeks. Dad arguing with an agent about his rights. Mom on the porch, Patricia holding her up. The van team was packing up their equipment. One gave me a thumbs-up clear recording. Every word captured. I got in my car, adjusted the rearview mirror. Behind me, my childhood home lit up with camera flashes as they documented evidence. 3 decades of memories being cataloged as crime scenes. My phone buzzed. Mercer. Outstanding work. Captain. Initial review suggests 15 to 20 federal charges. Your house plus damages will be recovered. I didn't reply. Just drove toward Fort Westlake, where rank meant something and family couldn't reach. The federal courthouse at 9 a.m. Sharp. 6 weeks later, I sat in the prosecution section, dress uniform pressed to razor edges. Across the aisle, my family clustered with their lawyers, 3 different firms, because unity fractured when handcuffs appeared. Lydia looked smaller in her conservative suit. No designer labels. Her lawyer, Stephen Marsh, had the desperate energy of someone fighting an avalanche of evidence. Mom and Dad sat behind her with their attorney. Positioned as victims of their daughter's scheme, their strategy was obvious. The United States versus Lydia Hartley Morrison, the clerk announced. The prosecutor, Janet Williams, stood. Your Honor, we're prepared to present evidence of systematic fraud, including forged signatures, falsified documents, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Defense, Judge Harrison asked. We maintain this is a family financial dispute, not criminal fraud. Marsh said. The supposed victim gave verbal authorization, which occurred while Captain Hartley was in a classified location with no communication access. Williams interrupted. We have military records. She presented everything methodically. The forged signatures, blown up on screens. Torres testified about the handwriting analysis. The pressure patterns are consistent with tracing, not natural writing. See here, the hesitation marks where the forger stopped to check their work. Sarah testified next, walking the jury through financial forensics. The defendant tested the system with small withdrawals before escalating to the property theft. Classic confidence-building pattern in fraud cases. Then came the recording from the dinner. Lydia's voice filled the courtroom. Sign the agreement or we'll make sure everyone at Fort Westlake knows you're unstable. Mom flinched. Dad stared at his hands. Marsh tried damage control on cross-examination. Captain Hartley, isn't it true you often discussed finances with your sister? Yes. And you trusted her with financial information. I trusted her as family. She used that trust to steal. You were absent for months at a time. Someone had to manage things. My automatic payments and financial advisor managed things. Lydia managed theft. Objection, Marsh said. Sustained. Jury will disregard the characterization. But they'd heard it. Lydia took the stand after lunch, playing the overwhelmed sister. Ava abandoned us for the military. Someone had to step up when family finances got complicated. By forging her signature, Williams asked, I had verbal permission. When, March 15th, Williams pulled up records. Captain Hartley was in medical at Fort Westlake that entire day. No external communications. I might have the date wrong. You were very specific at the family dinner. 2:23, you said? Lydia glanced at her lawyer. It was around then. So precise about the time, so vague about the date. I keep good records. Speaking of records, Williams presented the notebook from Lydia's purse. Can you explain why you have pages of practiced signatures matching Captain Hartley's? I sometimes doodle. You doodle your sister's signature repeatedly, with progressive improvement in accuracy. The jury leaned forward. One woman shook her head. And this email account, Era Hartley, 1985 or freemail.com. Who created it? I don't know. The IP address traces to your apartment. Someone could have used my Wi-Fi. The recovery phone number is yours. Silence. Williams moved to the kill shot. The notary, Rachel Hendricks. Your college roommate? She verified a signature on a document while Captain Hartley was deployed. How do you explain that? Rachel must have made a mistake. A mistake that benefited you by $387,000. Marsh objected repeatedly, but damage accumulated like compound interest. Then came Mom's turn as a prosecution witness, given immunity for testimony. She sat rigid, avoiding my eyes. Mrs. Hartley, did you know about the house sale? Not initially. When did you learn after it was done? And you accepted money from the trust. I thought it was legitimate family financial planning. Williams presented bank records. These deposits to your account, immediately transferred to your brother. What were those? Family support. From stolen funds. I didn't know they were stolen. Your daughter told you she was selling Ava's house. Mom's voice cracked. She said Ava agreed. Did you verify with Ava? I trusted Lydia. Over your other daughter. Ava was gone. Lydia was here. That hung in the air like smoke from a burnt bridge. Dad's testimony was worse. He tried maintaining authority, but Williams dismantled him piece by piece. Mr. Hartley, this golf club membership, $50,000 cash. Where did that money come from? Investment returns. From the Whitlock Trust? Yes. Which was funded by your daughter's stolen house. I wasn't aware of the source. You never questioned sudden wealth appearing after years of supposed financial struggle. I trusted my family. Just not Captain Hartley. She wasn't involved in family finances. Because she was serving the country. Dad's jaw tightened. Yes. The defense's witnesses crumbled. Rachel Hendricks, the notary, pled the fifth rather than testify. Daniel, Lydia's husband, admitted he'd noticed unusual financial activity, but didn't want to cause marital problems. Closing arguments were surgical strikes. Williams painted a picture of calculated betrayal. The defendant didn't just steal money. She stole her sister's trust, her security, her home, while Captain Hartley defended this nation. Marsh tried spinning it as family dysfunction, misunderstanding, paperwork errors. The jury didn't buy it. They'd seen the practiced signatures, heard the threats, followed the money. Verdict came after 3 hours. Guilty on all counts: wire fraud, identity theft, forgery, conspiracy. Lydia crumpled. Mom sobbed. Dad stood frozen. Judge Harrison scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks. The defendant will remain in custody. Flight risk given the financial crimes and available resources. As they led Lydia away in handcuffs, she looked back at me once. No apology, no remorse, just rage that I'd fought back. Outside the courthouse, Mercer shook my hand. Full restitution plus damages. Your parents face civil suits for receiving stolen funds. I nodded, feeling nothing. Victory without satisfaction. Justice without joy. Captain Hartley. A reporter pushed forward. How does it feel to send your sister to prison? I looked directly at the camera. Like defending what's mine. Something the military taught me: never leave your position undefended, especially from those who know its weaknesses. 2 weeks later, sentencing day, Lydia got 4 years federal, restitution of $387,000 plus damages. The gavel fell like artillery in the distance, decisive, final, irreversible. I didn't stay for her last look or Mom's collapse or Dad's stone face. I had paperwork to collect from the clerk: the restoration of property ownership for 19 Red Alder Lane. That evening, I returned to the officers' club at Fort Westlake. Same ballroom, same yellow lights, but empty now except for shadows and the faint smell of floor wax. The staff had gone home. I'd gotten permission from Colonel Richards to have a moment alone here. I stood where I'd stood 6 months ago, receiving my captain's insignia while my family plotted their con. The microphone was off. The table's bare. Just me and the echo of "Your rank means nothing" that still bounced off these walls in my memory. I pulled off my dress gloves, looked at the indentation on my shoulder where the rank sat. In combat zones, rank meant chain of command, responsibility, trust. Here, it had meant a target on my back, painted by blood relatives who saw opportunity in my absence. The envelope from the courthouse was thick deed, titles, legal declarations. I set it on the same table where Mom had stood to denounce me. The paper made a soft sound against the wood, like a flag being folded. My phone buzzed. A text from Mercer. Lydia's account's frozen. Your parents' civil case settled. They'll pay back everything they took, plus interest. You won. Captain. Won. Such a simple word for such a complex loss. I'd won back my house but lost my family. Won justice but lost the illusion that blood meant loyalty. Won the case but lost any chance of sitting at another Christmas dinner without handcuffs and courthouse memories between us. I walked to the window, looked out at Fort Westlake's neat rows of buildings. Tomorrow I'd process logistics reports, manage supply chains, do the work that actually mattered. The work where trust was earned by showing up, not assumed by DNA. Behind me, footsteps. Colonel Richards entered, off duty but still carrying himself like he wore the uniform. Thought I'd find you here, he said. Just collecting something, sir. He stood beside me, looking out at the base. Heard about the trial, the sentence. Yes, sir. Family's supposed to be your secure base. When that gets compromised, he shook his head. Takes a special kind of strength to hold that line. Or a special kind of foolishness to let it get that far. No, Captain, they were family. You're supposed to trust family. The foolishness was theirs, thinking your absence meant weakness. We stood in comfortable silence. Finally, he said, you know what your rank means. Hartley. I waited. It means you've earned the right to stand your ground, against enemies foreign and domestic, even when the domestic ones share your name. He left without another word. I picked up the envelope, felt its weight, not just paper, but the substance of principle, the mass of justice served cold and exact. I walked back to the spot where I'd given my response toast that night, raised an imaginary glass to the empty room, to family. But this time I finished the thought honestly. To the family, you choose the ones who have your six, not because they have to, but because they've earned the right to stand beside you. The lights clicked off one by one as I walked toward the exit, automatic timer shutting down another day. In my car, I placed the envelope on the passenger seat. Tomorrow, I'd return to 19 Red Alder Lane, change the locks, start over. Tonight, I'd return to quarters, file the paperwork, close this operation. My mother had been right about one thing: my rank meant nothing to them. But that was their loss, not mine. Because my rank, my service, my honor, those meant everything to the people who actually mattered, the ones who understood that loyalty isn't inherited, it's earned, maintained, and when necessary, defended, even if that defense means standing alone in an empty ballroom, holding property papers instead of family photos, knowing you did what was necessary when necessity demanded choosing justice over blood. I drove away from the officers' club for the last time, leaving that night's ghosts behind. In my rearview mirror, the building went dark, but ahead, the road to 19 Red Alder Lane stretched out clear and uncompromised, mine again, because I'd fought for it. Because sometimes, that's what family does to you, teaches you that home isn't about who you're related to, but about what you're willing to defend. The door closed. The lights died. The story ended where it began, with a captain standing alone, rank intact, family dismantled. Justice served as cold and precise as winter reconnaissance. Some victories taste like ash. This one tasted like freedom. Thank you for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing to the channel and sharing your thoughts. Have you ever had to stand up against family? How did you find the strength? Your stories matter too, and I'd be honored to hear them in the comments.